there's a way to make an entrance.
This is my destiny.
It was now a conspiracy of witches.
Download Veely today.
Bantry House in County Cork is one of the most important country houses in Anglo-Irish history. Sophie Shelswell-White and her partner Josh have had to sacrifice their life in Australia to take over the running of her family home from her parents, Egerton and Brigitte.
Mum and Dad are very proud of what they've achieved, but no, I don't want to be in the same situation 30 years from now.
With debts of nearly £800,000 and falling visitor numbers, the future of Bantry House and its remarkable collection of precious artefacts is in jeopardy.
It's endless.
Every day something new springs up.
Even with your best laid plans,
Yeah.
you know, something comes up that you're not prepared for.
Can entrepreneur Simon Davis convince duty-bound daughter Sophie to embrace new business ideas?
And how much are you charging them?
I'm not charging them.
Right.
Before Bantry House and its important history are lost forever.
It's literally falling apart at the seams.
You could easily put a pop-up restaurant in here, but there's a lot of work to do.
My vision of it is that someone had come in and pop it up for us.
Bantry House in County Cork, southwest Ireland, has been in the Shelswell-White family for over 300 years. The current residents, Egerton and Brigitte, have worked for the last 30 years to keep the house standing and have built up the business with house and garden tours, a tea room and bed and breakfast.
Previous generations have struggled with it, and it's a challenge. We felt that it was a challenge worth rising to.
When I got married, it never occurred to me that it should be sold. So once you get into that mindset, somehow that it has to be preserved, whatever.
But in his late 70s and unwell, Egerton felt that he and Brigitte could no longer carry on being the sole caretakers. So 3 years ago, at a family summit, it was decided that it was time the next generation took over. And it was Sophie, the eldest of their 4 children, who stepped forward to take the reins.
It was always somewhere in my mind that I would come home. Yeah, absolutely. And with Dad becoming ill and things like that, it came home to me more that I needed to be here.
You see, she's lovely and she's gentle, but there's steel. There's a strength there, which is good, because she'll need that.
While her parents still live in part of the house, Sophie and her partner Josh have moved back from Australia to live nearby with their young son and to take over the running of Bantry. But the faltering tourist economy has meant that visitor numbers have dropped from 60,000 to just 28,000 a year over the last decade, while increasing maintenance bills have led them further and further into debt.
There's the brickwork all around the house.
Yep.
Occasionally you would have little bits that come off. That would be a huge job there.
I think both the lodges and on either side of the building are in various states of decay.
You could just go on and on.
But with strong emotions tied up in this historic building, Sophie is determined not to fail.
It's been 300 years in our family. I don't think I could be the generation to give it up.
If they can't turn their struggling fortunes around, they will be forced to sell. So entrepreneur Simon Davis must show them how to revitalise the business and save an important piece of Anglo-Irish history.
The west of Ireland is majestic, but it's also incredibly remote. And that makes running a business very tricky. There are loads of country houses in Ireland, and to make yours make money, you've really got to make it stand out from the crowd.
Bantry House and its namesake town sit on the edge of the famous Bantry Bay, which is renowned for its mussels and other seafood. While there was once a vast estate of 80,000 acres, almost all of the land has been sold over the years to pay off some of their debts, leaving the house with barely 100 acres. But with the banks unwilling to lend them any more money, they are desperate for Simon's expertise.
How do you do, Simon Davis?
Hello.
And Josh.
Hi,
Josh,
good to meet you.
Good to see you.
Hi.
Good.
Phenomenal view.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Phenomenal.
We're very lucky.
You must never tire of it.
No, we don't. Even on a day like today, it's beautiful.
Very impressive and grand and imposing.
Away from the major tourist routes, the family choose to open the house to the public for only 7 months of the year.
I feel we're being stared at quite a lot.
Yeah, I feel like that every day.
Are these all your ancestors, right?
They are,
And how many generations have you been?
10 generations. I'm the 10th generation and my son would be the 11th.
Now, amongst 11 generations, there must have been some pretty serious characters.
Yeah.
Who are the ones who are really stand out as the big family figures?
Well, the second Earl of Bantry, Richard White, he's the bust over there, he travelled a lot during the early 1800s, during the Grand Tour, and he would have collected nearly all the content that's in the house now.
But the titles in the family have now gone, haven't they? Is that correct?
Sadly, yes.
So you're no longer...
I'm not a lady.
No. So the titles have gone, the money has largely gone,
Yeah.
but the house and its beautiful contents and your passion remains.
Absolutely. This is the Rose drawing room.
It's incredibly grand.
A large collection of treasures, including 15th century Russian icons, fine carpets and rare porcelain, were collected by the second Earl during his travels in the 19th century.
And what happens through here?
This is the Gobelin drawing room.
Sadly, despite their pride in this important collection, mounting debts and overheads have forced the family to take drastic steps.
We have had to sell furniture in the past to keep the maintenance going.
What has been sold?
This would break my parents' heart to say it. You know, dining room table had to go, mirrors. There are hooks on the wall with nothing on them. I mean, it's quite clear what's happened.
Yes, and I suppose there is that irony that if you sell things, there's less of a reason for people to come to visit.
Yeah, and the big ticket things are the things that would get the most money. But then what are people going to look at when they come in the door? You know, so.
Yeah. I mean, this tapestry here is phenomenal. I mean, that must be worth 30,000, 40,000 odd.
Well, exactly, yeah.
What would you say to those people who said, well, stop whinging about not having any money, sell the tapestry?
Maybe I'm too emotional about it, yeah, who knows.
Money is particularly tight at Bantry. Any profit goes towards ongoing maintenance and servicing the £800,000 debt. Josh, an accountant, has taken over the financial running of the house, and over the last 2 years the couple have concentrated on cost cutting. They have also chosen to continue the businesses set up by Sophie's parents, rather than risk starting new enterprises that might bring in more visitors and more money.
They started all of it many years ago, you know, so as yet we haven't really changed tack from that. And I don't know if we will massively either, because it could be a product that works really well.
It's more fine-tuning, I think, that we've been able to do to the business so far.
The B&B accommodation housed in the east wing of the house is well organised and profitable. Simon will be staying in one of the rooms to provide inspiration for his business plan.
So what's your occupancy at the moment?
60%.
60%, and you're pleased with that?
I'm pleased, but it could be better.
But you're open all year round for the rooms?
No, we don't. We close those in the winter as well.
So for 5 months you can't stay here? Is that right?
You can't, yeah.
So this is my room?
This is your room.
This is it?
Well, it's very nicely done up.
Thank you.
A good size. And how much would this room cost?
90 per person.
And why the per person and not the per room? That's very unusual.
It's something we inherited. It's something...
It's just always been that way.
It's always been per person, yeah.
By sticking with the past and limiting the number of months that they are open, Sophie and Josh are dramatically reducing their opportunities to generate the significant sums of money that will help Bantry House get out of debt.
This really is a beautiful place, and part of me can see why Sophie and Josh gave up everything to move back here and run it. But it's a vast house, and there's no money in the coffers. It's a massive undertaking for a young family.
While Simon is impressed with his room, a look around finds the communal areas in a less pristine state.
Billiard room here, it's very elegant. The problem is, as a guest who's paying upwards of £100 a night to stay here, you don't expect to see paint peeling off the walls and plaster falling about the place.
Should I put this on the table?
To find out more about the family and their financial situation, Simon is having dinner in Egerton and Brigitte's apartment in the main house, where Sophie and her siblings grew up.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. I almost got lost. I followed my nose. How do you do, Simon Davis? How do you do? You've just taken on an enormous project here, albeit with the support of your parents. What ideas would you like to implement here?
Well, endless. To begin with, just sort out this debt that's hanging over us.
Right, which is nearly a million euros.
Close to,
thereabouts,
running up that way.
And Sophie must rise to this challenge if she is to avoid the same heartbreaking circumstances that faced her parents.
You don't know how absolutely desperate our situation was 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, tell me, how desperate was it?
Awful. We didn't know how to pay anything.
We were certainly open to offers from developers, from hoteliers and things, either for an outright sale or to go into partnership with them.
We just thought, well, if none of the children want it, it gets sold. And even if the market is bad, it will still be sold. We were in a very, very difficult situation.
You do have a beautiful house here with some really, despite the fact that you sadly had to sell off some of them, there are still some beautiful things in this house. Yeah. And you do have a wonderful garden and a phenomenal view, but I think the frank reality is there are quite a number of beautiful houses with lovely gardens and wonderful views that are more accessible. If it actually, despite all your efforts, would you eventually, if it just got too much, sell?
I don't know.
The important decisions here have been made with the heart. Now, 3 years ago, this house came that close to being sold. My biggest worry now is that for the younger generation, unless they start making some significant new decisions, then that threat may be posed again.
But can Sophie put her emotions to one side and face up to the reality of what it will take to save Bantry House?
I do believe closing for 5 months is foolish.
There's always that sense of duty that everyone talks about, but also a challenge.
Do you ever think, what the hell have I got myself into? I could be on a beach in Tasmania.
You have days.
Bantry House, in a remote corner of southwest Ireland, has been home to the Shelswell Whites since 1765. The family were granted an earldom and thousands of acres of land after their part in seeing off a French armada in 1796, when Ireland was under British rule. During the 19th century, the second Earl added the library and the wings to the house, as well as laying out the gardens, which included the 100 steps and the 2 stable yards. He filled the house with beautiful artworks and furniture collected on his grand tour of Europe. But those glory days are long gone, and nearly all of the lands and some of the most precious artifacts have had to be sold off. For the last 34 years, the house has been lived in by Brigitte and Egerton. But 3 years ago, their eldest daughter, Sophie, agreed to move back from Australia with her partner Josh and young son Jacob to take over the running of the house.
We want to make this a sustainable business that we can be proud of, and Mum and Dad are very proud of what they've achieved in 30 years, and I want to carry that forward, but even more so.
Battling falling visitor numbers, urgently needed renovations and mounting debts, the couple have asked businessman Simon Davis to find a solution to their problems. He spent the night in the bed and breakfast accommodation that is usually only available during the summer months.
Well, they've done a really impressive job on the B&B, actually. The thing that still mystifies me, though, is, yes, we're in the off-season here, but I'm sure there are people who would still want to come here, and yet I'm the only person here, which is slightly ludicrous, if slightly spoiling.
Simon's exploration of the formal rooms reveals a more worrying concern.
For me, this room so encapsulates the sad reality for houses such as these. It looks so wonderful and opulent. All these great paintings and artworks and porcelain that were purchased by the second Earl on his grand tour. But I'm afraid if you look a little bit closer, a lot of this architrave and cornice work is all falling away. And if you look here, this wallpaper, it's literally, in fact, not just the wallpaper, this whole wall is, look at that. mention it too much, but I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, the perilous state that this house is in.
Having spent over 30 years of his life working to save the house, Simon wants to hear how Egerton feels about Sophie and Josh taking over the management of Bantry.
I got a real sense last night when we were having supper, a real sense of the commitment that you and your wife have put into the house. Do you feel that Sophie and Josh, they've got that real passion and commitment?
Oh, I think they do. But I think neither she nor Josh probably realised how much sort of daily nitty-gritty there was to do, you know. It's very difficult to know when you're interfering with them or when you're helping them. You want to be in the background helping, but on the other hand, you feel if you say too much, you're implying at least criticism of some kind.
It's becoming clear how delicate the handover of responsibility has been for the family, and how much they have each had to sacrifice to keep this historic property standing.
You know, we're walking up these magnificent 100 steps, and it's absolutely torrential rain in wonderful West Irish fashion. Do you ever think, what the hell have I got myself into? I could be on a beach in Tasmania with my little boy and with Josh.
I suppose you have days. You have days.
Yeah.
This, funny enough, isn't one of them. But no, I mean, you make a commitment, and I've weighed up that before I came home.
Yeah.
You know.
Whoa. So this is the West Stable.
That's right, yeah.
West Stable, no roof.
No roof.
As part of the tour of the estate, Sophie leads Simon to the near derelict West Stable block, which has been given a small Heritage Council grant to prevent it decaying further.
So what do you see for the West Stables?
It could be a great space for some kind of farmer's market. There's heaps of local produce.
But as there's currently no money to fund such an ambitious project, Simon is becoming concerned that what drove Sophie to commit her future to Bantry was a sense of duty to her parents, and that she must now step out of their shadow and introduce new ideas if the house is to be saved.
Do you sometimes wish that someone else had put their hand up?
No. You can't expect everyone to drop everything and...
But you have.
I did, yeah, but I expected of myself. But the others are finding their feet and they're helping how they can.
And you're confident you weren't just led by your heart, essentially?
Probably a bit. Yeah, probably a bit. There's always that sense of duty that everyone talks about, but also a challenge. My parents needed the help and I wanted to do it.
Certain the business needs to find a new direction that will attract more visitors year-round, Simon heads to the fully restored East Stables that have so far been left off his tour.
Well, it's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. Well, I'm slightly confused because Sophie showed me the West Stables, which looked like a bomb had hit it, and there was no roof or walls, and she was full of enthusiasm for doing farmers' markets and all sorts of activity there. And yet she's got East Stables, which are in what appear to be quite good nick. I'm not entirely sure what's going on.
Several years ago, an outside body restored the East Stables for use as a museum commemorating the attempted invasion of Bantry Bay by the French Armada. But the museum didn't get enough visitors and had to close. Although many of the displays remain, it is the infrastructure that makes Simon feel that this building represents a huge opportunity.
It's often the case that the obvious answers are right under your nose, but this East Stable space here seems fantastically useful to me. It's got a roof, it's relatively dry, it's got electricity. I really think this has amazing potential to be a great indoor event space. Yes, you've got to clean it out a bit, but it's more graft than cash. I really think this could be brilliant.
With his research complete, Simon has asked the family to gather in the dining room so that he can lay out his business plan for their financial future.
One of the things I've really discovered from being here is that you are so led by your heart, particularly you three.
Yeah.
But hearts aren't very good at making pragmatic, big decisions.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Simon wants to start by concentrating on an area of the existing business that the family do well, but that he believes should be generating even more revenue.
The B&B is great and it works. One thing that I do think is imperative is to increase the number of nights that people can stay and make it year-round. Yeah. Now, it might not be 365 days a year, but I do believe closing for 5 months is foolish. And I also think you've got to stop charging per person and charge per room to come into line with everyone else.
Achieving just 25% occupancy of the B&B during the winter would bring in an extra £25,000 of revenue. However, with £800,000 of debt hanging over the property, it's clear that there is currently little money to spare for the huge number of structural and cosmetic renovations needed. But Simon is concerned that Sophie and Josh's attempts to balance the books may go too far and actually harm the business.
I don't think there can be any more cost cut, but it started to seem to me that you were cost cutting in areas where perhaps you should be spending. Take the billiard room, for example. Now that is a place where people are going who are spending quite a significant sum to come and stay, and there's paint peeling from the walls, and there's plaster coming off. Now those things, that is where you should be investing the money, because you only need to see just the smallest bit of paint peeling and you start to think as a guest, well, hold on a minute, you know, they're letting the end go here.
Although Brigitte and Egerton have done an impressive job of keeping the house open to the public, the falling visitor numbers mean that Simon wants Sophie and Josh to concentrate on new areas of business. He wants them to run specific events during the off-season that make use of somewhere with clear money-making potential.
The West Stables, which we went to earlier, I think it's a pipe dream, really, the West Stables. But the East Stables, as far as I can see, is a wasted area. I had a snoop around there earlier on today, and with a lot of graft and not too much money, that could become a very good indoor event space. You know, it's got a roof on it, it's got electricity, you've got that wonderful central area for a potential farmer's market. You know, we all know that this part of Ireland has really garnered quite a good reputation now for food, and it could be a small little film festival, some more music, some theatre. Create a space that's open all year round so that the locals and people from further afield can come there, and it's not in the house. So you can still, if you don't want to open the house to the public all year, have a place that people can still come.
With his experience as a restaurant consultant and the surrounding area's strong reputation for fish and other foodstuffs, Simon believes that the cleared-out East Stables would be the perfect setting for a temporary restaurant, which would help market Bantry House to a wider audience.
Let's say you did a pop-up restaurant with a decent name, Chef, that garnered quite a lot of marketing and PR, and maybe it ran for 2 or 3 nights, 80 covers a night. People would come, enjoy this chef and its local produce, stay in the house. You'd bring new people to the house who would potentially repeat customers. It doesn't necessarily have to be a massive expense, and it doesn't mean that when you open it's an all singing, all dancing, super duper world's greatest restaurant. I mean, I'm not suggesting that.
Pop-up restaurants are a recent trend that have garnered lots of press attention. While Simon will help provide a big name chef, he wants Sophie and Josh to run the restaurant, so they will have to clear out the stables and arrange the catering equipment and ingredients. This first event will be for 1 night only, but extended to 4 sittings every month, it could turn over £200,000 a year.
I really want to help you prove that it can be successful, because I firmly believe that it can be, and if we get a good example of one working, then hopefully it will set you on the road to doing it in the years to come.
We've had so many comments in our 30 years here and so many criticisms. At least those were constructive.
We particularly like the idea of doing small things, such as the billiard room, which would show that we were at least making a start on all the myriad things that had to be done.
Obviously the East Stables, we know full well that there's a huge potential there, and we think of many different ideas in there, and we'd love something to be up there for sure.
I love the idea of that pop-up restaurant, but implementing it is always where we
implementing and knowing
And
someone who
financing
knows
it.
somebody who
Yeah.
can help us
Yeah, the link.
do that would be really beneficial.
Yeah.
Simon will return in 3 months' time when he's hoping to see progress with his business plan. But will the scale of the task prove too much for Sophie?
I've never done anything like this before. Oh, they're alive! I'm overwhelmed by what we're all being asked to do when everyone knows what kind of a situation we're in.
It's February, and Bantry House in southwest Ireland is closed for the winter. In the house, Sophie Shelswell-White has asked some builders to assess the damage to the walls in the billiard room, as Simon Davis suggested.
We've had this problem for years over and over again, and we would patch it, paint over it again, and then it comes back the next year.
But convinced that an all-year-round event space in the East Stables will be the key to reviving their fortunes, Simon has arranged a research trip for Sophie and her mother Brigitte to Ballymaloe, a world-renowned cookery school, restaurant and B&B located in a country house a half-hour's drive outside Cork. It's open all year, hosting around 10 different events a month.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Hello.
You're really welcome. Well, thanks for coming down. Great.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
Sophie and Brigitte have come to see their latest venture, a flexible event space, which is the brainchild of Rory Allen.
This is the grain store.
Look at it.
After an initial investment of £1.2 million, the grain store now accounts for 50% of Ballymaloe's business.
You must think of every possible opportunity that you can let it for.
It's wonderful.
The thing about the room is what this building has done. It has brought business to us in the off season, which is absolutely wonderful. It's like people get married all year round. The corporate things happen all year round.
Yeah.
There's no seasonality in those. You have a concert here, or you have a corporate event here, you sell your bedrooms up there. And it keeps the place alive. It is very important to try and get 12 months or at least 11 months out of the year.
He just really thought of everything. It's the fact that we're so seasonal that he manages to bring people here throughout the whole year that can then help the house fill their rooms, you know.
It's absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Without
Just get it
pretense.
right,
Yeah,
don't
it's
they?
wonderful. It's an inspiration.
Fired up by her trip to Ballymaloe, Sophie focuses her attention on the East Stables. Simon has asked her to organise a trial event to show the building's potential without spending very much money. So, with her partner Josh working in Australia, Sophie has arranged a craft fair for local artisans to coincide with Simon's next visit. But rather than clear out the space, the stalls are having to set up around the existing museum displays. 3 months since his last visit, Simon has returned to check on progress.
It's great that you're looking to utilise the East Stables some more, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
and how's it work financially?
They pay me per stall usually.
And how much are you charging them?
I'm not charging them very much for this one particularly.
How much are you charging them, Sophie?
This one?
Yeah.
I'm not charging them.
Right. So you're not going to make any money?
No.
Simon hopes that his own plans for the East Stables will be useful for marketing and as a revenue earner.
Now, when I was here last time, I spoke about the possibility of doing a pop-up restaurant,
Yeah,
a temporary restaurant. I've managed to get Richard Corrigan,
Oh, awesome.
who is someone I hugely admire as a chef.
Yeah.
And
he's
he's
Irish.
obviously Irish,
Yeah.
Ireland's greatest chef as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's agreed to
away.
get involved and be the chef.
Really?
He's coming tomorrow for a recce, so we can work out
Brill.
how we're going to make it
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
And then when we do the actual restaurant in the spring,
Yeah.
he's going to come down and cook.
How much fun. I can't wait.
Good.
What are we going to give him for lunch?
As Sophie is starting to develop new business ideas at Bantry, Simon wants to find out how supportive Brigitte is.
Hi, Brigitte. Hard at work?
Yes. Hello.
It's a mammoth task, isn't it? You've obviously been fundamental in running the house and looking after the house and the garden.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Sophie taking over some of those responsibilities? Because obviously it's something that's very dear to you.
Endlessly grateful, quite frankly, because it became very, very difficult for us.
What do you think of the ideas she's been having up in the East States?
Brilliant, whatever, you know, it's wonderful.
Is it going to be a triumphant craft fair?
Well, that I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be triumphant.
As the next day dawns, Simon wants to prove to Sophie that despite the rain, the East Stables is a practical event space that can be used all year round. Although she will make no money from today, the craft fair will show that Bantry House is open to new business.
Hello. Hello. Hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Spend lots of money.
And Simon also wants the stall holders to help him use today's event to show off the estate's best feature.
Hi there. Sorry to interrupt. We need to get rid of these bins, and if we've got a captive audience here, we need to let them see the house.
He's determined to build momentum for the pop-up restaurant that he wants Sophie to organise for his final visit.
See?
Oh, great.
Much better.
Fine,
And I know it's raining today, but I want people to come through here
I
and
understand that totally. Yeah, I get that context.
have that.
In the midst of a busy craft fair, award-winning chef Richard Corrigan arrives to discuss plans for the East Stables' next event.
How are you? Thank you for coming down.
A big supporter of local
Thank
produce,
you very much.
he has agreed to front the first Bantry pop-up restaurant for free, but is visiting today to make sure that Sophie, who will have to provide the equipment and source the ingredients, is capable of organising it to a high standard.
So I was thinking, drinks in the library, bring everyone through the garden, up the steps and into the stables on the left.
What a fantastic journey.
Yeah, it'd be lovely for them, wouldn't it? And a great
Wow.
view to look at on the way through.
What a fantastic house.
A pop-up restaurant requires considerable organisation and becomes economically viable by being open for a number of days. Although this trial will be for one night only, Simon is determined that it won't lose money and will pay dividends by putting Bantry on the map outside its usual summer season.
So what do you think of the space, potentially?
It's a bit raw at the moment, but it has a good feeling. I like the flagstone floors, you know what I mean?
What sort of numbers do you reckon we could put in here?
I reckon 60 to 70 people. I was thinking 60 easy, but you could do 60, 70. I mean, you aren't going to try to run it as a revenue-generating exercise.
Yeah.
Look at that. Her eyes popped out of her head there that time. That's the first time I've seen you motivated, yeah?
I've been trying to impress upon Sophie the need to actually make some money.
Yeah, this is the only reason
this
I'm in
night,
it.
the night we do the pop-up with you, it's paying customers.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
No, it's a money-making enterprise.
I feel very motivated when you come and see a beautiful house. I mean, a beautiful venue for a pop-up restaurant.
Yeah, it is.
But there's a lot to be done, Sophie.
Although the craft fair has shown that the space can be used successfully, Simon wants to make sure that Sophie is fully on board for the pop-up restaurant, which is due to happen in 8 weeks' time.
The important thing to remember is that the craft fair, and you made no money from that because you made the decision to not charge them. Make no mistake, the pop-up restaurant is for paying customers.
Yeah, great. I'd love to know how we're going to finance all of it.
There's going to be a modest cost for bringing in some stoves, but you always have to invest a little bit.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But think about the other elements. The location, we've got. The chairs and the tables,
Yeah.
we've got. What you need to do is clear that space out, start thinking about how you're going to market this fantastic event here. So even when you're selling some of the tickets for this event, offer a room for the night as well.
Yeah.
Package it all up together.
Absolutely. Sounds very
Best of that's a
exciting.
lot of work to do, but
There
I really feel confident
Have
that
faith in us.
that it can
We can
be
pull it
a
through.
really fantastic evening and really help
We can.
put you on the map.
But by early March, and with concerns over her father's health weighing her down, Sophie's optimism has given way to genuine doubt.
I'm overwhelmed by what we're all being asked to do when everyone knows what kind of a situation we're in.
Hoping that Richard Corrigan can provide much-needed reassurance, she phones him in London.
I'll be totally honest, I've never done anything like this before, so...
Okay, what you don't need to do is run into huge costs. I would beg, borrow and steal everything. Glassware, crockery, negotiate the fees very hard. Do not go into debt on this.
Which I can't because I have nothing to put into it in the first place, so I'm a bit stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Hard work is a fantastic currency.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, good to talk to you. Thanks for taking it. Bye.
Unless Sophie and Josh can overcome this crisis of confidence, the success of Bantry's big night is in doubt.
We always thought that was a great idea, but my vision of it is that someone had come in and pop it up for us. And obviously we have to pop it up ourselves. And so
that's the thing where we don't know how we're going to do that.
So when Simon returns for Bantry's first pop-up restaurant, will it be a triumph or will its temporary status be its undoing?
The gas is freezing. It's freezing up, yeah?
This is the thing with pop-up kitchens. Anything can go wrong. So, fingers crossed.
It's April, and at Bantry House, Sophie and Josh have turned a corner.
I was totally overwhelmed. But we sat down and we just said, well, now we're going to prove a point.
So we'll get this one out.
Yeah, is that going to go through the door?
The couple have finally knuckled down to clear out the east stables, making it suitable to host Bantry House's first ever pop-up restaurant.
Hello, Sophie.
How are you?
Nice to see
Thank you so much for this.
You're very welcome. I'm delighted you're using it.
Yeah, well, it'd be great.
To keep costs down, Simon and guest chef Richard Corrigan encouraged Sophie to pull in favours from all around Bantry.
So that's all the crockery and cutlery.
And our fish just arrived, so...
Oh,
they're alive!
And aware of the importance of Bantry House, the community has responded, selling valuable shellfish at cost price, supplying free food and lending professional catering equipment. Richard Corrigan and his team of 5 have flown over from London and are busy prepping in the kitchen. 2 months since his last visit, Simon has returned to see if they've risen to the challenge.
Tonight's a real test for Sophie and Josh. I really hope they don't waste this opportunity. It really is a fantastic one for them. And to throw it all away would be a real travesty. Hello. Bantry House pop-up restaurant.
How's about that?
Actually, looks like a restaurant.
It does, doesn't it?
It's exciting.
After a concerted marketing push, this first event has sold out.
And how many people are coming?
70.
7? So
Yeah.
you sold out?
We sold out. Yeah,
Excellent.
6 tables in here and one on the link.
Sold out.
Flying it, yeah. At €100 a head.
So €100
Yeah.
all in, and you
Yeah.
sold out at 70 covers?
Yeah, and then we have 4 couples coming for dinner and staying the night. And I gave
excellent.
them 10% off if they booked room with dinner, so.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you pleased?
Delighted, yeah.
Hi, Chef.
Simon.
Good to see you. Happy?
I won't check it. Smoked salmon.
Excellent. How's the kitchen?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It works very well.
Good.
The locals come in with the fish. Blue lobsters, £1.50, maybe £1.75 blue lobsters. Beautiful local produce. So, are you going to be the wine waiter tonight?
Am I going to be the wine
Yeah.
waiter? I'm going to be guzzling it. No.
First time in your life, isn't it?
Oh, back in the kitchen.
Delighted that Sophie has guests staying in the B&B and that they're being charged per room and not per person, Simon wants to check on the state of the decorations.
I'm really pleased to see that they've sorted out that plasterwork that was falling away from the walls. Now, they have paying guests staying here. It's important that this room looks the best that it can do.
Bantry House is looking its best. And with just 4 hours to go until the diners arrive, Sophie has roped in her siblings and friends to ensure the night is a success.
Great.
And although Egerton is ill and unable to attend, Brigitte makes an appearance to check on progress.
Are you proud of what they've
Oh,
achieved?
absolutely. I think they did wonderfully well.
It's a bit of a change, isn't it?
It's a bit of a change, and it was very stressful for them, I must say. Lots to do, but they did well. And we are very, very pleased, very happy.
The abandoned East Stables have been transformed from a failed museum into a professional restaurant, and Bantry House is ready to open its doors to an expectant public.
Hi, how are you? That's fine, I'll take that off you.
Best of luck with
Thank
it all.
you, thanks very much. I'll just tick you off my list and tell you you're on table 4.
Drawn by the prospect of fine dining in this historic setting, the event has attracted locals and visitors from as far away as London.
That's the champagne and we're just getting more bottles.
By starting the evening in the house, Sophie gets to show the guests some of the precious artifacts and furniture that make Bantry so important and worth saving.
Sophie's really getting into the role of the chatelaine, which is lovely to see. She's feeling like a really good start.
Behind the scenes in the temporary kitchen, Richard Corrigan is putting the finishing touches to his banquet of locally sourced produce.
Come on, boys, now. I feel pressure. I feel pressure. 10 minutes, sit down. Can we have spoons in the mayonnaise, please?
Dinner time, everyone.
Gentlemen, if we want to go out through the library.
In the tradition of pop-up restaurants, the guests are all seated together in an informal arrangement around large tables.
Beautiful, really, really exceptional.
But whilst the diners help themselves to the starters, in the kitchen there's a problem. Richard and his team are struggling to poach the turbot for the main course.
The gas is freezing. It's freezing up, yeah? And it's been cutting out on us all day. Got to a point now where we're getting a bit stressed.
Right.
So we've asked Simon to sit in the connection, like a good English boy
Simon,
abroad. Yeah.
Well done. Taking one for the team.
Yeah.
This is the thing with pop-up kitchens. Anything can go wrong, and you've got to act very quickly. You've got 70 people out there who are waiting for their main course. Anyway, I think we've got it back going at the moment, so fingers crossed.
Richard's unorthodox make do and mend technique has worked, and the main courses go out on time. With the wine and conversation flowing, what are the guests making of this first event in the revitalised East Stables?
If this is what a pop-up restaurant is, then I think they are great. Let's have more of them.
Great to see the house getting the support this evening, and it needs people to rally round to save these houses.
You're done, job done, Chad.
Should be very proud. Beautiful event, lovely support locally.
Yes, that's
Great
been
food.
that's been the great bounce at the back. Yeah, absolutely.
The fires are burning here. Everyone's still having a wonderful time at dinner inside. The food's been absolutely fantastic. Everyone's loved it. For those who haven't been to Bantry House before, it's a wonderful introduction. And for those who have been here before, it's welcoming them back in.
As Simon prepares to take his leave, he wants to find out from Brigitte how she feels about this next chapter of Bantry House's history.
What would you like to see in 5 years' time here?
What I want to see is that whoever runs it is happy with doing it and is fulfilling their potential in it.
And do you think Sophie is that person, Sophie and
Well,
Josh?
Sophie and Josh, I think, are those people because they wanted to do it. But they have to be able to freely make decisions.
Well, as opposed to tiptoeing around.
Well, I really want them to take their time to find out which way they want to go and then go for it. And they will.
The pop-up restaurant has been a great success. Sophie is already in discussions with a local chef to run future events, and there are plans for more activities in the cleaned-out East Stables, including using it for wedding receptions and parties. Bantry House's future is looking a lot brighter.
Well, what a night.
What a night.
It was fantastic. But I hope you at least enjoyed it and enjoyed seeing all those people there.
And we did, and we learned a lot about how to run something like this. Like, neither of us would have had any experience.
Yep.
And I asked a lot of you to suddenly do it, and I thought you stepped up to the mark.
Thank you.
Both of you.
Good.
Josh, I know that you're the figures man and you've been keeping an eye on the numbers for the event last night.
Yep.
How did it shape up?
Income was approximately 7,000. That's with B&B as well. And expenses were roughly 6,000 for the evening. So we made a small cash profit, which
is encouraging.
We hope that there'll be more value in the exposure.
Well, of course, there's the marketing value, which is really important.
For a one-off event to turn a small profit is very positive. But, run over 4 sittings on a monthly basis, a pop-up restaurant has the potential to turn over £200,000, a sum which could make a huge difference to Bantry House.
I thought it was wonderful how the locals gathered around you.
supported you, helped you, gave of their time. If Bantry House thrives and is successful for you and for future generations, it will be good for the community as well. Well, it's been very good to meet you.
Thank you.
And I wish you every success.
Thank you.
And I look forward to coming back here to the next event.
Great.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
See you.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
I know Josh and Sophie found running this event extremely hard work, but to be honest, the struggle's only just begun.
It's great that Sophie has started to take charge at Bantry, and I believe that she's inherited some of that steeliness from her parents, so that one day she may be able to take over completely.
I hope I've made them realise that if they continue to work hard and run exciting, inventive events throughout the whole year, then there's a chance that their family can stay living in this beautiful house.